this cold snap. So some of the questions we've been getting, Tim, are about historical storms. Do you think this is going to approach anything that people could remember? I know all storms are different. I'm not a big fan of comparing them because they're always different. But does this storm remind you of any storms in your past up there that it might be reminiscent to some of the viewers out there?
Well, a couple days ago, I don't know if you ever pay attention to like the storm analogs when the model with the surface maps can kind of pull up, past storm instances and things like that. A couple days ago, an analog came up for this storm. Was December 26, 2010. And we call that our almost white Christmas storm. And basically that one was it was obviously a similar setup. It was an analog, and we got one of our top 10. I think it was our third biggest snowfall event for Norfolk. So when I saw that, I got a little bit excited. And I know that's not too long ago. It's 16 years ago, but I think a lot of people do remember that, and that was a big one.
Yeah.
So that may be something, and that was also one that kind of overperformed a little bit. It was forecast to be a little less snow than it ended up being. So we'll see. Jury's still out on that one.
Yeah, that was a big one here in North Carolina, too. It's actually probably our best white Christmas option. It hit here a little earlier than you guys, obviously, but that's one that people, oddly enough, some people forget about it because they say, I've never had a white Christmas, but we really did.
Yeah.
That was the whole state.
2010.
Yeah. I
Brad,
think we were just barely below like the white Christmas.
So close. Brad, this will make you chuckle here. Someone's asking about, does this weather pattern remind us of the March in 1960 when it snowed every Wednesday? This is our third weekend in a row now. Don't forget that 2 weeks ago where we had some snow showers. Yeah. So this is kind of a pattern at this point.
Yeah, that is like the most infamous March. That's our all-time snowiest month in Charlotte is March 1960. And everyone here talks about it still, that it snowed every Wednesday that month. And one of the storms was like 8 inches, one was 10.6. But for the whole month, we had like 20 inches of snow in March. And it still makes that the snowiest single month in Charlotte's history because of that. But yeah, that kind of reminded me of that a little bit because every Saturday and Sunday we've had something. Now, 3 weeks ago, it was kind of nothing for us, a little flurries up your way. But this is the third weekend in a row, and it's weird how this cycle, we get into this trough, and we get storm after storm. So, guys, I hate to cut y'all short, but we're out of time. This was great. We'll probably do it again soon. Be safe out there, everybody. We'll have more news coming up after the break.
Thanks for joining us after our weather impact extended for the last hour or so here on WCNC Plus. Had a great conversation. If you missed it, that's why you need to download WCNC Plus and stay tuned. We do have some breaking news that we want to discuss before we get off and running to the president and RFK Jr. announcing some new initiatives. But first, Democrats and the White House have struck a deal to avert a partial government shutdown that was looming. It's a temporarily funding side of the Department of Homeland Security, apparently, as they negotiate some new restrictions for the president's surge of immigration enforcement operations. Of course, there have been 2 different deaths to 2 protesters at the hands of federal agents in Minneapolis. So there's a lot more work to do, but obviously it seems like both the White House and Democrats have agreed on this. So it sounds like this funding will be separated from the rest of the legislation and fund DHS for 2 weeks while they debate Democratic demands that are curbing or trying to curb immigration enforcement actions across the United States. That's where we stand with the government shutdown and our leaders on Capitol Hill. Let's go to President Trump and, like I said, RFK Jr. trying to fight drug addiction and substance abuse. Let's go to this now.
Been a little busy day, right? We had a good morning, and now we're having a good evening, and we're going to a premiere in a little while. But there's nothing more important than what we're doing right now, in my opinion. Today I'm signing a historic executive order to combat the scourge of addiction and substance abuse. Big deal in this country, and probably in every country. We're calling it the Great American Recovery Initiative. I'm grateful to be joined by co-chairs of this sweeping new effort, Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Senior Advisor to the White House Great American Recovery Initiative, Catherine Burgum. Thank you both very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Where's Bobby? Bobby? Hello, Bobby. Come here, give me a hand. I love Bobby. You're doing a great job, Catherine, all right? Do we think so? Who's doing a better job, him or your husband? Maybe your husband. He's doing a good job.
I'm just getting started, sir.
They're both doing very well, and now you're going to do better than both of them. Thanks as well to Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary Doug Burgum, Secretary Scott Turner, Secretary Doug Collins, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who's got some pretty good news, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary, NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. Oh, I've gotten good at that. You are. Administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, who's doing a fantastic job, and Director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, Sarah Carter. I also want to introduce a great friend of mine who happened to be here, and he's very much committed to this. He knows how important it is for our country. He's built a tremendous American company. It's called WeatherTech. I guess you've seen the ads. I've seen the ads. I think they're great ads, but more importantly, it's a great product. David McNeil. David, congratulations on what you've done. It's incredible.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Really great. And the president of WeatherTech, Ryan Granger. Ryan, congratulations. What a great job. They built an American company, and it's a thriving company too, so, and with a great product.
It's great to be here in America.
You know, when I was in the private sector, I'd always buy the floor mats, but now that I'm president, I no longer have to buy floor mats. But you made a great floor mat, and you still do, and lots of other things. Many of those with me today have personally known the heartache of a loved one taken by drug or alcohol addiction. I do. Just like millions of American families, every year we lose an estimated 300,000 people to drug and alcohol abuse, and the real number is probably much, much higher than that. Thankfully, drug overdose deaths plummeted by 21% in the last year. We're working very hard on it. We've closed the southern border, seized over 47 million fentanyl pills and 10,000 pounds of fentanyl powder. That's a record, and I have formally designated Dr. And I'll tell you what, we have a group of doctors, some of them behind me, who have just been incredible, and they've really wanted this, designated the drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. And for some reason, they didn't want to do that until we came along, but they are indeed foreign terrorist organizations. With our action in the Gulf of America, that sounds so nice when I hear the Gulf of America, drugs entering our country by sea are down 97%. So when you see the boats being hit, those boats kill on average 25,000 people a boat. So that's 25,000, I would assume mostly American lives, but lives are being saved. Now we're taking a bold action to help Americans struggling with all forms of addiction so they can get the help and the support that they need to free themselves from the horrible burden of dependency. The Great American Recovery Initiative will bring together federal, state, local, and private sector resources to support addiction, recovery, treatment, and prevention. And it will help mobilize the full resources and authority of the federal government to help stop this tremendous plague. And I'd now like to invite Secretary Kennedy to start, and then Catherine Burgum, and then I'll sign the order, which I've just signed. And wanted to make sure the signature was good. Took my time, and we get. Let me just see. Pretty good. Pretty good. Let's give it a 10, okay? For Catherine. But I'd like Bobby to say a few words. And Catherine, thank you very much, everybody. Please.
Mr. President, thank you for your leadership, for signing an executive order that tells the truth about one of the greatest challenges that our country faces. Addiction is not a moral failure. It is a disease. It's chronic. It's treatable. And for too long, our nation has responded with fragmentation, with stigmatization, and silence instead of science, compassion, and coordination. Today, President Trump changes that. With the Great American Recovery Initiative, we finally bring the full strength of the federal government together across healthcare, law enforcement, housing, labor, faith communities, and the private sector to save lives, restore families, and rebuild communities that addiction has hollowed out. Nearly 50 million Americans suffer from substance use disorder. Many never receive treatment. Even more don't believe that help is possible. That is not because recovery doesn't work. It's because our systems have failed to reach the people where they are early enough, long enough, and with dignity. This initiative fixes that. We will align federal programs instead of letting them operate in silos. We will set clear, measurable goals and report honestly to the American people. We will use evidence-based care, modern science, and continuous support, just as we do for heart disease, diabetes, and other chronic illnesses. We will focus on prevention before addiction takes hold. We will intervene early. We will expand access to treatment that leads to real long-term recovery. And we will support re-entry because recovery does not end when treatment ends. It succeeds when people return to their families, their jobs, and their communities with purpose and with hope. As co-chair of this initiative alongside of Catherine Burgum, whose leadership and commitment strengthens this work, I pledge urgency, accountability, and honesty. Catherine and I share the experience of having been addicted and long-term recovery. But almost everybody in this room and almost everybody in our country has been touched by addiction. Steve Witkoff, who's here, had an extraordinary son, Andrew, who was a superstar boy, a straight A student, an athlete, and a wonderful leader, and lost that son to addiction. President Trump has talked about his own families who had a struggle with addiction. All of us are touched. If it touches these people, it can hurt every American. And President Trump has often talked about, with compassion, about the families who lose children to this disease. 100,000 children a year until recently. Now it's about 76,000. Those families are devastated forever. And the cost to our country, not only in dollars, but in just the malaise and the despair that it imposes, is incalculable. We are going to listen to states, localities, frontline providers, and tribal nations. We will partner with communities and faith-based organizations. We will work with employers, clinicians, and recovery leaders who know what works on the ground. President Trump has already acted decisively securing the border against deadly drugs, signing the Halt Fentanyl Act, strengthening treatment programs, expanding access to naloxone, medication-assisted treatments, and investing billions in prevention and recovery. This executive order builds on that record and accelerates it. Recovery is not a side issue, it's an economic issue, a workforce issue, a family issue, a national security issue. When Americans recover, communities grow stronger. When families heal, children thrive. And when we confront addiction with courage instead of complacency, we reclaim the promise of our country. This initiative is about life, it's about responsibility, and it's about building a great American recovery together. With this executive order and with major announcements that I will announce next week, we are taking decisive action to make America healthy again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby, and great job. And you're doing a fantastic job. He's doing a fantastic job. And I saw his wife yesterday, and she confirmed that he's doing a fantastic job. So she's on your side. You know that, which is great. And Oz, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Catherine, please, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. Your leadership today, relative to this announcement about the Great American Recovery, is a gift to all Americans who are suffering from the brain disease of addiction. I also want to thank First Lady Melania Trump for her leadership during your first administration, and now the work she's doing championing youth and children, especially related to foster care, where early trauma and instability are often consequences of the disease of addiction. Addictions touch this administration in real and profound ways. President Trump, you've openly spoke about your brother Fred, who struggled with addiction, shaped your life and your understanding of this disease. And Susie Wiles carries the lived experience of her father, the late, great Pat Summerall, whose recovery journey became a source of hope for millions. Vice President Vance has shared his story of his mother's battle and recovery. And as Secretary Kennedy just said, he brings his own lived experience, proof that recovery is not theoretical, it is possible. These stories matter because they are not isolated. They reflect the reality of the over 190 million Americans, that's half our nation, who are impacted in some way by the disease of addiction. And I am one of them. I started drinking in high school, and I was a blackout drinker from the start. For 20 years I struggled, relapsing constantly starting over, constantly trying to stay sober and failing. I reached a point where I truly did not believe there was one single reason for me to keep living, and I was suicidal at the end of my drinking. One day I was out walking alone. I didn't have faith. I wasn't religious, but something in me said I should ask for help. And out loud to no one, because it was just me, I said, I don't know if anyone is there, but I need help. And that was the day I became sober. 15 years later, I found myself somehow standing in front of people as First Lady of North Dakota, thanks to him. But I was asking people to share their stories openly about addiction so we could eliminate the shame and stigma, so more people would reach out for help and more lives could be saved. And today I'm standing here in this incredibly beautiful Oval Office. And if not for the grace of God, I would not be alive today with over 23 years in recovery. That's why I'm here, and my message is simple: never give up hope for recovery. Mr. President, I also want to thank you for allowing me to stand here with you today. I was in this building in 2017 when the administration announced the national response to the opioid crisis, and nearly a decade later, the crisis remains, and in many ways, it has grown worse. Not because we lacked compassion, not because we lack effort, but because we never fully aligned our system with the truth. Addiction is not a moral failure. It is not a character flaw, and it's not simply a behavioral issue. Addiction is a lifelong, chronic, relapsing medical disease, as real as diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. And when we fail to treat it as such, we don't treat the disease, and we pay mightily for the consequences. Emergency rooms, jails, foster care, overdose deaths, and broken families. The Great American Recovery changes that. This initiative represents a fundamental shift from reaction to prevention, from fragmentation to coordination, from stigma to science, from short-term fixes to long-term recovery. And for the first time, we're aligning federal leadership across health, justice, labor, housing, veterans, social services, the faith office, and education around one single shared truth. When addiction is treated early and correctly, people recover and families heal. Addiction is a generational disease, and if we don't treat it properly, it repeats from parent to child, from community to community. And when we treat it like a lifelong condition, the condition that it is, we stop that cycle. We save lives, we restore families, we rebuild communities, we return people to dignity, purpose, and productivity. Mr. President, thank you for seeing this moment clearly. With your leadership and the Great American Recovery Initiative, we're establishing a new framework and a new national response to the disease of addiction, including treatment and care that parallels other chronic diseases. With this framework and treatment, recovery is not the exception, it is the expectation. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. You know, I saw them riding horses in a video, and they said, "Who is that?" I was talking about her, not him. And they explained it. I said, "I'm going to hire him because anybody has somebody like you to be with. It's an amazing tribute, and it's a great couple, amazing couple." And she's very much a part of his big success. He was a fantastic success, as you know, having been one of the most successful business people. And I saw him campaigning, a great governor, two-term governor. He did a fantastic job, North Dakota, and he's done a great job. And I'll tell you what, Catherine's a very big part of it. I see it. It's just really one of the fantastic couples. So I appreciate it. What a beautiful job you've just done. And I'm going to give this to you, and you can figure out what you're going to do with Bobby. You know, but let's have a good picture of the two of them and everyone else. And I'd like to ask Steve Whitcuff also to say a couple of words when we're finished, because he's a very special person who I knew very well, an incredible person. So if you don't mind, Steve, I'll ask you to do that in just a second. All right? Please, Bob. Thank you very much, Catherine. Thank you very much. Thank you. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Steve, please.
The president is doing the same thing to me now that he did to me in 2017. Do you remember, Catherine?
Yeah, we were sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to tell the story about this. So I came to the opioid conference, and the president did not know I was coming because I was invited by the First Lady. And he leaned over, saw me in the aisle, and he looked at me and he said, "Steve," and then he realized why I was there, because I had lost my son Andrew, and the president was an incredible friend when I lost him. I lived in his building at 502 Park Avenue, and I remember when him and the First Lady came, and I talked about this all the time. And so he took my hand and he said to me, "Come on up to the stage and tell the world about your boy Andrew." And of course, that was something that was really meaningful to me, but and I got through it. And I talk about it all the time. I talked about it on the campaign trail and so forth. He is a very special man. And he's begun and led the fight against opioid addiction and alcoholism. And Catherine, I feel like we sort of bonded from that day. Mm-hmm. And it's just my blessing to work for you, sir.
He's a special guy. He and a group of people, Jared helped and others helped, Steve, peace in the Middle East, and we're there.
Yes.
A couple of little flames, but they're very little by comparison, and they'll go out quickly. Yes. They're already going out. And he's now trying very hard to settle up with Russia and Ukraine, and I think a lot of progress is being made there. And I told that Russia's not doing any shooting for a period of time during this horrendously cold weather.
Because of you.
So We asked President Putin if they could stop the shooting for a week. They're being hit with proportionately the kind of cold that we're being hit. It's much colder in Ukraine to start off with, but it's really cold now, and he agreed to do that. We appreciated that very much. It's a nasty war. It's a nasty, nasty war. Would anybody else have anything to say? I can say that I am extremely late, but that's okay. Don't worry about me. Would anyone else have anything to say? Doug, you're doing a fantastic job, and we appreciate it. Marty, you are really something special. Everyone's talking about you every time. If I don't mention Marty, Bobby always mentions it. So we have a great team. Jay, great. Marty, great. Do you guys want to say something?
Thank you. Thank you. Well, historically, with addiction, the entire society has always been reactionary, and that's been the story of healthcare. But at the FDA, we are looking into incredible cutting-edge therapeutics, and we are being proactive, giving them vouchers when we see something that's promising to get an approval as quick as weeks in an era of a 10 to 12-year approval time. And the ultimate therapeutic is community, houses of worship, addressing loneliness. And so that's part of the MAHA agenda, thanks to Bobby's. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. Jay?
Mr. President, in 2018, you launched the HEAL initiative, helping to end addiction long-term at the NIH. It's paid fruit. It's yielded fruit. The ingenuity of small business has developed products that can deal with pain without opioids. The naloxone, which saves lives,
right.
That was the fruit of NIH. And for the kinds of investments that are your administration that you made, starting from the first Trump term to now, will continue to pay dividends. The kind of research that the NIH is doing it will help turn the tide, make people's lives so much better, restore families. All of the addiction that we've seen, the 80,000 deaths we saw, the huge spike in addiction deaths, during the first Biden term, is going to be a thing of the past. And I'm so proud to be part of this.
And fellas, some great things happening, right?
Yeah.
Marty, it's great, really great things happening, I hear. And some pretty big announcements over a short period of time, right?
Yep. Moving drugs over the counter so you don't need a prescription.
Yeah, right.
Naloxone, which treats opioid, is one of those drugs. And we're being proactive with synthetic 7-OH, a new opioid that's showing up. And we're working with the DOJ on addressing that because chemists are coming up with new opioids faster than the government has been able to keep up. We're going proactive on these new chemicals.
That's great. No, I hear fantastic things. Thank you all very much. We really appreciate it a lot. Thank you, Oz. He's doing a fantastic job. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, please. Thank you.
Mr. President,
All right, folks, that's that's it from that press conference with the president. We do have an update that we want to get to you right now. We're being asked for information in a Concord shooting. Concord Police Department, they're actively investigating the shooting that happened around 8:15 p.m. on Kite Court in Concord involving two individuals. Both were transported to the hospital. One passed away from their gunshot wounds, so this is an active investigation right now. And they're asking for information on this man. This is 16-year-old Raheem Glasgow Jr., who is wanted in connection with the fatal shooting that occurred on January 26th in Concord. Now, they are looking for this man and any other details that people can give to him. They say they're actively working to apprehend Glasgow and are now seeking the public's assistance. He's described as a black male with black hair and brown eyes. He's 6 foot tall and weighs approximately 160 pounds. He lives in Concord on Crowell Drive Southwest, and he's known to be at the greens of Concord apartment homes quite often. So people are supposed to look out for him. He's considered armed and dangerous. If you see him or know where he is, you're asked to call 911 immediately or the Concord Police Department at 704-920-5000 or Cabarrus Area Crime Stoppers at 704-93-CRIME. We'll have more in 2 minutes. We'll see you then. Welcome back, everyone. As you probably well know, we are getting ready for another round of winter weather this weekend. Snow, though. So let's tune into Governor Josh Stein, who's talking about the preparedness and how the state is getting ready for this snow this weekend.
These guys have been working for about a week and a half, almost nonstop. I just talked to a couple of the crew, 91 hours, 101 hours in the last week, and they are ready to go again because we're going to have weather this weekend. We'll have a fuller briefing tomorrow on the weather, but it looks like it's going to be snow, not ice this time. That's a good thing, but it's still going to have real impacts on our lives. So if you can stay home Friday night and bundle up, we recommend you doing it. These guys need to be on the roads plowing, preparing before the storm with brine, then applying salt and sand to deal with it. And if you can stay off the roads, you're going to make their jobs a whole lot easier, a whole lot safer, and you will be safe as well. So we really encourage folks to stay home starting Friday night. Happy to take any questions.
What did you hear from the crews that you spoke to today that surprised you most?
Not that it surprised me because I know how dedicated state employees are, but these guys are dedicated. They are working their tails off. 90 hours last week, 100 hours last week, and they're ready to saddle up and do it again because they know that the state needs our road system, and they're the ones who are going to keep those roads safe and keep people. We don't believe we had any traffic fatalities last week because of the storm. In a state of 11 million people, that is remarkable, and it's a testament to their hard work to clear the roads. It's a testament to the Highway Patrol making sure that the roads were clear of abandoned vehicles and being on the roads. Testament to the National Guard. I saw a great video of them getting trucks out of the median. These folks care deeply about their work and making sure that people are safe. And then finally, it's a testament to people staying home. And we're lucky that this is going to hit us on the weekend, so there will be less traffic. If you can stay home on Friday night, do it.
What's different about preparing for this compared to last week as far as, I guess, roads in particular, and just we're not expecting long-term power outages like we were a week ago?
Yeah. The main difference is we were expecting sleet and freezing rain last week. This week we're expecting snow. That means that we think that there will be fewer power outages, or the risk of power outages are less. That doesn't mean that there will not be power outages. There certainly, almost surely will be power outages, but it won't be in the entirety of a region. It'll be in more specific locations. These guys are going to have to still work hard to clear the roads. It's going to be coming. It's going to be windy. They're going to be out there plowing, and for them, it's going to be very much the same. For us, we're hoping that power outages are a smaller part of the story.
Is supply impacted at all as far as road treatments because this is coming right after another storm?
No, that was a question I just asked them. Do they feel like they have enough salt? Do they have enough sand? And they feel very confident in the amount of supplies that they have.
Obviously, the kids have been out of school. They've had a couple of virtual days, and I know they're happy, but their parents aren't necessarily as excited. Are you guys anticipating that the districts will probably have some snow days, and will the parents have to do any makeup days later in the year?
Yeah, I can't speak for the details of each school system's calendar, but I can tell you that we're very likely going to get hit by a lot of snow. It's going to be very cold next week, which means that it's going to stick around. I fully anticipate for families to be impacted for a few days. One good thing is we hope that this is snow and not ice. It's not sleet. It's not freezing rain. So use this as an opportunity to remind yourself how to sled.
The colder temperatures, obviously, that can, if it gets any colder, it could maybe nullify the effects of the brine that we always hear about, the impacts. I mean, what strategies are you hoping to hear from the folks here today about how they're going to combat the continuous cold weather?
Well, they're already applying brine today. They like to do it within 48 hours of the expected storm, which we think is going to be hitting Friday night. So they're going to be working really hard tomorrow. So to the extent folks don't need to drive tomorrow, don't drive tomorrow, so that these guys can do the prep work that they need to do. They're going to be immediately ready to bring their plows out come Friday night into Saturday.
Governor, how would a partial shutdown affect operations of the state, especially with FEMA funding in the last?
Yeah, in terms of the federal government, yeah. Look, the federal government needs to operate. They need to have a budget. We need the support of FEMA to help recover in Western North Carolina. The public assistance reimbursements need to come through. The hazard mitigation programs that help us build resilience into our infrastructure for the next storm, that needs to come through. There's absolutely no reason why you cannot have basic accountability for ice. It is on the east side. The last storm came in from the west. This storm's coming in from the east. We expect to have greater concentrations of snow east rather than the mountains. It's kind of backwards from what most people expect. There is also concern about overwash from tides on the Outer Banks, and so people on the Outer Banks need to be aware and be careful. So these guys are spread out around the state. They know how to handle these kind of storms, and they're ready to help the people of North Carolina get through this.
Anticipating declaring another state of emergency going into this storm?
Yes, in fact, right now I've just declared a state of emergency for this storm, separate from the one that we had last week. It helps us to mobilize our state emergency management team. It also helps prepare us in case we need federal assistance from FEMA down the road to have declared an emergency for this storm.
How have your communications been with the White House from last week's storm and going to this week's storm?
Last week, the White House and the administration was very responsive. I heard from the Coast Guard. I heard from the White House. They wanted to make sure that we had what we needed. I asked the president for a declaration of a storm declaration, and they granted it within a day. Very responsive, so I was pleased with that, and we hope that whatever needs we have of the federal government with this storm, they're equally as responsive.
One of the other questions you were asking down there in front of the brine was about the capabilities for the state to allocate resources to help locally as well. That was some of the concerns we heard from people out and about over the weekend. Just a lot of the major highways, NCDOT did a great job clearing, but a lot of the local side roads that people were in front of their homes, they were still covered Sunday going into Monday. Just what message do you have to North Carolinians that they can safely get out and about after the storm on their local roads in their towns and cities across the state?
Well, these guys have to prioritize the interstates first, and then the major state roads second, and then they can get into the secondary roads later. And we wish after a big storm that it could be within 24 hours. That's just not the way the world works. So we ask people to be patient, to understand that it's better to not be on the roads if you possibly cannot be. If you have to be on the roads, give a lot of distance to the car in front of you. Go slower. We want people to be safe. We want them to get through, and we want them to get back to their normal life as quickly as they possibly can, but we have to be reasonable as well.
Do you anticipate requesting another federal emergency declaration?
We would have to request a separate federal emergency declaration for this storm. We don't know yet if we're going to need to do that.
Did you use it for this past one?
At this point, we're considering whether we need to expand it to cover more expenses that were incurred. So we got the declaration. That does not mean that we're going to get the funding request that we need. We will be looking at that in the coming days.
What are the gaps?
In what sense?
So you said you need to expand it to look at some other expenses.
Yeah. Will, why don't you come forward and explain what you were telling me earlier?
Yes, sir. So the declaration that we received last week for that event was in the federal terms it was not a major disaster declaration. It was an emergency declaration. And what that did, based on the governor's request, was give us access to federal resources if we would need them for that event. What the governor mentioned is we are going to look at, like some of the other states that were impacted by that significant ice event have done recently, do we need to take a look at an expansion of that request to potentially be able to support state and local governments that expended a significant amount of cost in the response phase? I think we're going to take a look at that over the next couple of days, and again may have some movement there. I think we're going to continue to evaluate what may be needed for this particular event, and certainly make the appropriate recommendations up on any steps that could be taken.
Final question.
What role does the National Guard play in supporting the efforts of all these local entities?
They deploy all across the state to be responsive to whatever the needs are. For instance, there were some trucks that ran off the highway last week, and they brought their huge military trucks out to help pull them out. General Hunt, why don't you come forward and talk about the role of the National Guard?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. First, I want to thank the National Guardsmen who are out there, who've left their homes of warmth and safety to support the citizens of North Carolina. But my main focus and our main mission is the protection of life and property of the citizens of North Carolina, and we do that with working with the Department of Transportation and the North Carolina Highway Patrol as a team, and we'll go as a group. And like the governor said, we pulled out multiple vehicles last week in the mountains that have very difficult terrain. We pulled vehicles out, trucks out, commercial vehicles with our equipment. So that's our major role, is partnering with our other two agencies here. Thank you.
Thank you.
My final comment is just, as folks out there are seeing these crews out there working hard, when they see law enforcement out in the community, when they see the National Guard deployed, just say words of thanks, because if we're lucky, we're at home where it's warm. These folks are out on the streets trying to make sure that everything is safe for us when we have to go out and about. And so we just owe them all a really big debt of gratitude. Thank you.
All right, folks, that's the governor. We're going to take a quick 2-minute break and then see how they're preparing on the South Carolina side. We'll see you in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. We're going to listen in on SCDOT leaders as they get ready for this weekend storm.
Andy Leapart, and then several folks from our Richland maintenance team that are working round the clock right now, getting ready and for the storm. We'll be responding afterwards. Charles Kraft, Steve Altman, Jody Britt, and Andy Rowe. So these folks will be up here. Hopefully we can answer all your questions that we have. So obviously we have begun operations, have been continuing operations from Winter Storm Fern. Those were starting to ramp down earlier this week, but we saw the forecast indicating that we are going to have potentially another round of winter weather from Winter Storm Gianna. Starting Friday night, going in through Saturday and into Sunday. This is going to be a different storm. So Winter Storm Fern was something that we had to work for. It was forecast to be an ice event, predominantly in the upstate. What we are seeing is the forecast that we are seeing coming out of the National Weather Service and other forecasters is that this could be a significant snow event, particularly here in the Midlands, around the Charlotte metropolitan area, in the PD, as well as into the upstate. So it has the potential to be a statewide snow event that we will be ready to respond and be active in helping getting South Carolina moving again. So what we do anticipate is that travel conditions, if we do see that type of snow falling, would become dangerous and hazardous with those type of snow accumulations falling on our roadways, particularly if we see several inches of snow in those areas. So let me tell you what DOT is doing right now. Our crews are out right now pre-treating our primary routes, our interstates, and our bridges in anticipation of this storm. So you will see DOT trucks spraying brine on the roads right now and getting ready for this storm, which will help us keep the roads open as long as we possibly can, but also will help us clear the roads afterwards. Tomorrow, we are prepared to go into 24-hour operations, and we will be in 24-hour operations through the duration of the event. What that means, we have 3,000 employees that are now on will be going on to shift work and will be prepared to work through the duration of the storm. We have 1,200 pieces of equipment that are ready to go. And we've been spending the past several days getting our equipment ready, restocking our salt supplies, being ready to make the brine that is needed to go on the roadways to be ready to respond and ultimately recover from this event. So what I want the public to know is that we are ready for this event. We have been preparing for this event, but I think the public needs to be prepared that this could be a very significant event in terms of the amount of snowfall. So what we ask is as we see what actually falls on the ground from the forecast, the folks need to be patient. It will take us some time to clear the roadways to get South Carolina moving again. But, other important thing for us, we want to encourage folks to realize is that travel in snow and ice can be dangerous. It can be hazardous. Well, we encourage once the snow starts to fall, we encourage people to stay home and to avoid travel at all costs. But if they have to travel, travel with some common sense and caution. Drive slowly. Give adequate space between other vehicles and you. And, certainly be prepared for the possibility that you might get stuck in snow. So having a snow emergency kit, and there's a lot of resources out there from the state's emergency management division on how to be winter storm ready. But what I want everybody to be confident in knowing is that we are prepared. We are actively working to get ready for this storm. We will work through the duration of the storm. And when it is over, we will continue to work until the roads are reopened and cleared. With that, I'll open it up to questions from y'all.
Hi, are there any specific roadways in Richland County that people should be mindful of that might take the longest when it comes to this weather? So
let me just kind of talk about our order of not only how we pre-treat, but then when we actually start clearing the roadways, we'll be focused first on our interstates. So that'll be I-20, I-26, I-77. Those will be the first priority, and then we'll start moving into what we call our primary routes. So the US 1s, the US 378s, focusing on those first. The last of what we will treat will be those secondary roads, those neighborhood streets. So we focus on where the traffic is, but we focus on those highest priority routes first.
Secretary, we have some viewers from the Low Country and the PD region tuned in as well. Do you mind giving them some examples of those primary routes? Sure. Definitely in the Charleston area, the focus will be on I-26, I-526, the Ravenel Bridge, Highway 17. Those are going to be our priorities there. Similarly, in the Myrtle Beach metropolitan area, we're going to be focused on US 501, SC 22, SC 31, those kind of major east-west, north-south arteries in those communities.
We had a few incidences here in the Midlands with particularly the on-ramps, off-ramps in this past storm this past weekend. Are you going to be paying any special attention to those? We'll be focusing first on getting the interstates open and then working on those off ramps. So we're going to be focused on mainline traffic first. So what we encourage the public to do is to be very cautious when they're getting on and off the roadways, recognize there will be snow and ice on the roadways, to be cautious and to safe. It's going to take us time to get things reopened across the state. Hi, how much time do you think it'll take you to get the highways back open after the snow stops falling? If I could predict how much snow would fall, I would tell you I probably wouldn't be in the business that we're in right now. So what I would say is really will depend upon how much actually falls,
where it falls, and the time it takes. So I would say is what we will be focused on is getting out there immediately, working through our priorities and addressing it. But until we actually see what falls on the ground, it's hard for us to say exact timelines.
And for plows, how many plows do you guys have, and how many inches of snow do you guys need to actually have to be able to plow snow off the roads?
I mean, we can plow if it's an inch or 5 inches on the roadways. We have about 1,200 pieces of equipment, and that's in plows, that's in salter spreaders, in terms of brine trucks. So we will be basically deploying every piece of equipment that we can put out to use. We'll be putting it out on the roadways. Even that motor grader out there might be put into service as well for us. So we don't have aviation, so I would have to defer to the airports.
You guys start spreading the brine?
So that started this morning, so we're already out there. So what I would encourage people is you're going to see our brine trucks, particularly on our interstates and on major highways across the state. Encourage you all to give space to them so you don't get sprayed in the process, but also allow us to do our operations safely and protect the employees. We've got 3,000 employees that have been working round the clock for this one. Will be the third storm weekend that they've worked a storm. So they are working hard on behalf of the people of South Carolina.
And sir, are there any tips that you could give to viewers as far as how to prepare their vehicles maybe while being on these roadways if they do have to, travel during the weekend?
Obviously, check your fuel, check your tires, make sure that you have equipment for de-icing, a scraper, things like that. One thing I would encourage folks to do is we have our 511 SC app. You can find that on the Google as well as the Apple stores. That gives you real-time traffic information on what's going on across the state. It also has the traffic cameras, so you can rely upon that and have a lot of information at your hands.
Secretary, from ABC 15, can you speak a little bit to how SCDOT makes the decision to close roads in a winter storm event?
It's going to be based on what's actually on the ground at that point in time. What we're going to be focused on is trying to maintain those major routes as long as we possibly can.
And now what are you guys doing to keep yourself safe while you guys are out there doing that work?
We do a safety talk every time we get our folks out there. We're making sure that they have the right equipment, making sure that folks have been trained. This is not the first rodeo for these operators in terms of being out and being out in winter weather. These folks are professionals and been able to go through this before. But what I would encourage, though, is the public to make sure if you see a plow out on the road, if you see a brine truck out on the road, give us space. Let us have the room to do the work that we need to do to get the traveling public safe and secure for themselves.
What's the biggest difference in preparation from last week to this week? We're talking ice to snow. What would be the biggest difference?
So I think the biggest difference, obviously, we were doing a lot of the same paces that we did on this event in terms of pre-treating the roads, having folks ready to go. I think the bigger concern we had during the last event was the possibility of trees and debris falling on the roadways. So we had made preparations for that. With this being more of a snow event, we think that it's more of getting the accumulation off the road is going to be the biggest challenge.
And any more advice that you could give those drivers out there not used to these conditions?
Well, I think it's kind of two things. One, be safe, be smart, be able to give distance, be able to recognize your braking is going to be slower and that you need more distance to do it, that you may slide in that process. But at the end of the day, staying off the roads is probably the best advice I can give folks when it really starts coming down in terms of snow.
Once a road has been treated, approximately how long is it considered, working the brine? I mean, this is a slow-moving storm. Are roads going to have to be retreated, or?
I would anticipate that we're going to be making multiple passes in terms of applying multiple layers of brine through things. Again, it's going to depend on what actually falls, but what we will do is we'll keep at it, again, working our priority of the interstates, primary routes, and then getting into the secondary system from there.
One last question from the live stream is how we work together at SCDOT with local governments during a storm.
Sure. So no, we take a lot of pride in South Carolina, being Team South Carolina. So we work closely with our partners at the Highway Patrol, National Guard. All of us are going to have Emergency Management Division. All have a role and a part to play in it. We have relationships and agreements with local governments. So oftentimes they will step up and assist us, and vice versa, in terms of sharing brine and supplies, but also plowing roads together.
What would be the biggest operational challenge here in South Carolina to prepare for these weather events?
Well, I mean, I think it's, we're in South Carolina. Folks come here for the weather, not necessarily for snow and ice. But so, it's not something we deal with normally. We do have the infrastructure to deal with it, but we're not Buffalo, New York, in terms of what we have to deal. So we'll be ready to deal with it. Our folks are experienced and prepared, but know that it's going to take a snowfall potentially in the multiple inches, 6-7 inches, is going to take us a little bit of time to work through. All right.
So the brine and the salt can be kind of hard on the roads, as we know, and it's important, though, to have it there to make sure that we can all drive on them. But with so many multiple storms back to back, are you worried about the condition or the impact that this will have on the roads?
I think my biggest concern is making sure that the people of South Carolina are safe, and so we'll apply what we need to do to make sure that the traveling public is safe.
Okay, I think that's all the questions I've got from the live stream, and are we closed out here? All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank y'all. Appreciate y'all coming out.
All right, another update there from South Carolina. We're going to get another 2-minute break and come back after this. See you then. Welcome back, everyone. We do have a story that our Jesse Pierre had been covering. There was a baby that died that was under care at Charlotte's Novant Health. 2 doctors alleging some devastating errors, and there's some mishandling apparently after the death of this newborn. And of course, the family is traumatized by this, as you might expect. Let's go to this right now.
We're here for justice for baby Legacy. Now, we don't know exactly where baby Legacy is. Now, the mom feels as though baby Legacy is still alive and she's out there. And so that's the purpose of this press conference. It's just not on our side today, right? So maybe if I let the mom speak, then maybe the noise will stop. Mom, what does this press conference? All right. TV land. What does this press conference mean for you?
This conference today gives me a voice. It makes me feel heard. For 4 years almost now, I've been fighting to try to find my daughter, to get answers. And finally, I think the public will see that I'm here, and maybe Novant will act like I'm here as well.
Now, for those that are not familiar with the case, take us to the beginning of the situation with Novant Health Presbyterian, with baby Legacy.
On February 11th, I came into Novant Presbyterian having signs of high blood pressure. I was admitted. On February the 12th, they told me I needed an emergency cesarean. I refused it because I was so early. On February the 13th, they came back and said, you have to go now for no reason at all. I went in, had a cesarean. Legacy was born on February the 13th at 8 o'clock in the morning. She was thriving. They thought the worst, but she did well. They said the first 72 hours would be critical. She followed through with flying colors. She was amazing. On 3 days later, February the 16th, they were talking about releasing me. February the 17th, they did release me. After I signed my paperwork to be released, they called me down and told me that she had developed an infection. I went down to see them. I told them to do everything they could to save my baby and to make sure she was good. They said they would. I was released from the hospital. I went home that night on February the 17th. The 18th, they called me and said that she was not going to make it through the night. I told them that she would. I believed in God, and I was checking my chart to make sure they were giving her what she needed. She made it through the night, February the 19th. I went to see her that morning. I also got a text from a nurse that morning saying that she was doing well. February the 19th, the same night as the night before, they called again and said she would not make it through the night. I told them she would, and they were not going to keep calling me with the same thing. I hung up the phone. 5-10 minutes later, they called me back and said she had passed. I immediately went to try to look at my chart to see what happened. They had swiped her off of my chart. No picture, no charts, no files, no nothing. The next morning, I went up to see her. I waited for hours. All they kept persisting was that I had to find a funeral home to come pick her up. I told them I was not from Charlotte, that I was going to go home and talk with her father and see what he wanted to do, and I would call back up. They had me sign paperwork, and then hours later we went to see who was supposed to have been Legacy. They placed me in a closet, a storage closet for babies. It had a cart inside, a gift bags, Pampers, all kinds of baby stuff in there. There was no window, no light, no nothing. They put me in a closet. They brought me a baby wrapped in a whole bunch of blankets. I don't know what the baby looked like. There was no light. I don't know what the baby looked like. The two people that were with me, and any of us can't remember. We then left the closet. We left the closet. We left the hospital. I called back up there and told them what funeral home was coming. I proceeded to do funeral arrangements because I trusted Novant and what they said. At that point, 3 days later, while doing funeral arrangements still, Novant called back Dr. K, who was actually the doctor who was overseeing my daughter, and I had conversations with several times. He called and he was excited. He then proceeded to tell me how well Legacy was doing. He told me who he was and then told me how well Legacy was doing. Everything that was wrong with her, he basically said was turning around. He was optimistic. The excitement in his voice left me speechless. After that, my assistant that was with me, she said, "Wait, you said her baby was dead." He said, "Is this Miss Hunter?" I said, "Yes," and he then hung up the phone. I called back to hospital that day so many times trying to get answers. They would put me on hold and hang up. They would leave me on hold and never come back to the phone. Finally, hours later, they called and said, it was another doctor, Dr. P, Preffy. She called back and said, "I'm so sorry I called you. Your number was attached to another file." I said, "You didn't call me, Dr. K did." She said, "No, it was you." I told her it was not her, and I knew it wasn't her. She can't trick me. So at that point, she said, "Well, we put your name on another file." I said, "Well, I want to see that baby." She said, "If you come to the hospital, security will be called and you will be arrested." At that point, I didn't know what to do, so I started reaching out to attorneys. I found an attorney who then asked the hospital for an immediate investigation. They have completely ignored us up until this point. There has been nothing done, nothing. And I'm tired. I've missed my first words with my baby. I've missed our first steps. Every milestone that mothers get to experience, I have missed. She's the only child I would have physically had. And I just want my daughter. I just want answers. I want to know what happened.
Let me have Mom just step to the side, and I'm going to bring in community activist John Barnett. Now, John Barnett, what do you see wrong with this case?
Thank you all for being here. I literally ain't been home. I just came here straight from Louisiana. I'm glad I made it. But there's about 7 smoking guns we want to make sure you all know about. Number one, I think something that's very compelling is that she didn't even think she could get pregnant. Let's deal with the mothers. We got a lot of mothers out here. So let's deal with the mother effect. She didn't even think she could get pregnant, and she gets pregnant. So imagine her joy that she had knowing that she's getting ready to have a baby. Now we have ultrasounds, first red flag. We got ultrasounds, we got pictures to prove that this was a girl. That's the first problem. Number 2, DNA. Now to know that she did DNA of this baby with this, and she paid for it, with the skin and the nails after this baby was given to her, it came back unconclusive, which means the baby's not hers. It's the first problem. Second problem, rather. Number 2, it's a male. We have ultrasounds that it was a girl. Charlotte Observer, thank you. You ran this story 3 years ago. 2002, I think. Well, last year? 2024. Had the baby in 2002. So thank you. Because you ran the story and it just stayed there. Nobody entertained it. And then mainly because she didn't do what we did today. Now what we're doing today helped my client last couple months ago in Atrian Health. I got to give a shout out to Manila, who's fighting for her life, stay alive in Gaston County. And because of what the blessings behind your cameras is that she's been waiting to go to court since March of last year. We do a press conference in front of the hospital, which means I just left Louisiana fighting for some people to get their land back, and I'm in front of a hospital, which I'm thinking now, is the hospital just like the police department? Should I say crooked police departments? They deal with people with kidnapping. Yeah. We got baby, hypothetically speaking, being kidnapped. Yeah. They stealing organs. Y'all don't want to know how many calls we've gotten after we posted this story. Mothers calling me saying John, they took my baby's heart out, and then they put the heart back in, and the heart isn't my child. Oh, wow. I mean, the stories go on and on and on. So Novant, we're opening up. We tried to meet with you all. The lawyer sent a letter trying to meet with you all. We try to first come at a table of peace. Right. And after a table of peace, the 5th step of civil rights is direct action. Let me go to the 3rd bullet. The 3rd bullet is that she's got a lawyer because we said, do an investigation. Let's try to figure this thing out, Novant. Novant's response was silence. 4th bullet, which is one that makes me angry. There's some notes that we have that says that the attorney is a white female and the mother is black and uneducated. And that's probably why I took this case. You have a BS degree, correct?
Yes.
Johnson C. Smith. Shout out to Johnson C. Smith. So now you're labeling it. Now I see a little bit of discrimination based on race. And so today, 5th bullet, she called me last week. We got 7 days. And I'm reminded in the Bible, if anybody knows about scriptures, that at the last minute, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego goes in a fiery furnace. Yes. And they didn't know if there was any hope. And yet, they was saved from that fire. There's times where Jonah is in the well, and he's in the well for 3 days, and all of a sudden he escapes out of the well, and he goes and he preaches in Nineveh. Well, she only had about 3 days. And I've been calling lawyers, Jesse. I've been calling lawyers. I called about 8 lawyers. And just within the hour, God good, ain't he?
Yes.
I get a text from attorney Pam Hunter, who said, John, I'm tired, I done filed, and we good to go. Just 20 minutes ago. So now what does that mean? That means now, Novant, since you ignored this sister, since you ignored me, since you ignored an attorney, I don't know where she is, but she's a blessing. What's your attorney name?
Christian King.
Christian King, I don't know where you are. I know she's having some health problems. She fought, and she's not even a civil lawyer, y'all. I think she deals with embezzlement. But even she's seen something was wrong. And as I said before, WCNC, if something looks like a snake, if something crawls like a snake, and something acts like a snake, it must be a what, y'all?
A snake.
It must be a snake. So today we're exposing snake-like activities. I'm appalled at the fact. I got mad when they said uneducated black woman. Uneducated black woman. Who made those notes? What do I need to do to initiate another demonstration at this hospital? Do I need to tell people not to come to Novant? Because I just told them a couple months ago from Manila, don't go to Atrium Health. If we don't get a court date, I'm going to tell black women in Charlotte. And I ain't got a big voice, but I got a little voice. And I'm passionate about what I do. And I told them at Atrium Health in front of that hospital, just like we're standing here, y'all. And I told them, I'm going to encourage people to come to Novant. Candidate who's our lawyer, former presidential candidate, John Edwards, and said, let's get a court date on the docket. Let's hurry and get a court date. The docket. Let's hurry and get a court date. What? Direct action. I don't want to do this. It's in bed. Right. Jesus rose on the what? 3rd day, right? Paul was blind for how many? 3 days, right? So today, time is up, Novant. I bet you go call us now. And I ain't even booked her for Roland Martin yet, because I got to book Louisiana first. But she's next in Roland Martin's list of 2-minute subscribers. All I have to do is just shine a light. Reverend Sharpton said if there's roaches inside of a house, John, you turn the light on, what happened to those roaches? They scatter. So I don't bite my tongue, Novant. We had to do it. I didn't want to do it, buddy, but we had to do it. We had to come out here. I had to text Jesse at 6 o'clock this morning. I text Gina Esposito. I text everybody and their mama. And I said, thank you for coming out today, because this ain't for me. I care not about these cameras. I care about this lady getting justice and closure. Where's the missing baby? Right. Is it that they hid the other baby or gave it away? So they won't have a double lawsuit, y'all? Let's just treat the black woman any kind of way. And how soon we forget the Tuskegee experiment, where they injected syphilis in the veins of black people. And y'all think the people that injected the virus, I wonder where are their kids? I wonder where are their grandkids? Are they in here? Think about that. People ask, who's the next Malcolm X? Who's the next Dr. King? No. Where's the grandchildren of the slave masters that used to beat my granddaddy? That's what I want to know. Are they inside this hospital working on black babies? Are they inside of a prison beating black men down in South Carolina? I've just got a couple of questions. Where are they? And why haven't you responded to a lawyer? My lawyer said the most disrespectful thing a business or a company or a hospital can do is not respond to my demand letter. They ignored this lady in the midst of her illness. Attorney King, thank you. And in the last 7 days, you now have a lawyer to reopen this case. So now we can come to a table of peace. Questions?
Yes, I have a question for the mom. As an American woman, let's just start there. As an American woman, what does this say to you that you voted correctly?
Yes.
What political party did you vote for?
Democrat.
Democrat. What do this say to the American people? And I'm going to mention the Democrat Party. What would you say to the Democrat Party?
I would say this is still not fair. A lot of things still aren't fair. This is just one example of what's not fair. We have to figure out what we need to do so we can get fairness all the way across the board, regardless of what Democratic or Republican. We just need fairness all the way across the board. Answers need to be said.
LaShonda. I have a question for you. So first off, can you clarify these photos? And I know you mentioned, I think in one of the videos you mentioned something about getting a photo. I'm assuming are these photos that you received? I think you're talking about.
So this photo is a picture of my daughter. This is Legacy.
That you've taken?
This is my daughter that I had, Legacy. My baby girl that I had February 13th.
She took it when she was in the bed.
And you took this photo?
Yes, I took this photo of her, yes. This is the baby that they sent to the funeral home that said that this was Legacy. This is clearly a boy in every which way. This baby doesn't even look the same as my daughter. My daughter had clear marks on her forehead from skin and bruising. This baby don't have any marks, no sores, no skin, no anything. This baby is lighter than what Legacy was. Also, this baby is an older baby than my daughter, gestational. Legacy was very small. I could hold her in the palm of my hands. She was that small. This baby clearly is bigger. When black people die, they get darker, not lighter.
That's a fact.
My daughter was already brown complexion. She was nowhere near that complexion.
I have a question about the DNA testing. The first lawsuit mentioned that there were 2 DNA tests. The first one was inconclusive and the second one was a match. Do you think the second one was incorrect?
The second one couldn't have been correct because they never came and did another specimen for me or the baby. I had to sign for it, number one. I didn't sign for a second one. They did tell me they were going to come out and do one, but they never took another specimen from me nor from the baby again. So I don't know where they got the testing from. The hospital was the one who asked for it. Novant asked for a second test. I don't know what they did, but I never took a second DNA.
And let me give you the CSI conspiracy on that. She has the DNA, say the baby's not hers, correct?
Yes.
The lawyer maybe didn't know she needed to tell Novant this. My client has processed the DNA. Novant says, we want a second one. When they process the second one, y'all, the reference number that's on this medical file on the first one that says unconclusive is the same number on the new one.
By law, every time a DNA is taken, whether it's 10 times or 2 times, you have to have another number with it.
They give you a
cannot
new,
be the
that's
same
right.
number.
They give you a new reference number.
And all of the numbers are the same. So it was like photocopies.
And she asked the lady, what's the deal with these numbers? The lady said, I don't have a clue. The woman that works in the DNA office. I don't know how this happened. You see these little snakes that needs to be exposed? And guess what? If she's wrong, and if this baby is hers, we'll go home, get some Starbucks and talk about the memories. But if by chance they are ignoring us, and they're not responding to calls, Charlotte Observer, and they're not, how you not respond to a front page? Charlotte Observer says that they have 1 million viewers. How y'all not ignoring that? I would at least respond. Send a spokesman out here. Send a nurse out here. Send in the cleaning department out here. Anybody. At least respond. So by not responding, that means you're hiding something. And if not, sit down with us at a table of peace. I got another question. Hold on. Go ahead.
You talked about the new lawsuit and what else is included in that new lawsuit.
So a lot of it is still being amended, but a lot of it is going back from day one, even when I was in the hospital, how I was supposed to have an emergency cesarean, and it's nowhere in my file saying I needed an emergency cesarean, nowhere. My doctor came and saw me. He left 3 o'clock that morning and said I was stable and he'll see me Monday. Another doctor came in 3 hours later and said that I was scheduled for a cesarean, and nobody knew what she was talking about. I had never seen this doctor before. I begged her not to do it. I literally begged her, and she still insisted that I have it. She couldn't give me a reason. There's no reason in my charts that said I needed to have a cesarean. So they're going back to that. They're also going back around to the different things that took place, even down to the baby being a boy. They're mentioning, they're including that more so. And keep in mind, Legacy was supposed to have passed February the 19th. On February the 25th, they were still charting her chart, taking out tubes.
Yeah, that's right.
On February the 25th.
That's right.
So it's no way that Legacy could be passed if you're changing tubes. It just doesn't make sense. And by law, when a person passes, the chart has to be closed within so many hours, and nobody can touch the file. They withheld this whole thing was delayed because they withheld my charts from me for a year and 5 months. A whole year and 5 months I had to wait to get charts.
17 months.
That's crazy. They would give me a chart with 25 pages, with 17 pages. That's not even I was in there for 4 days, 5 days. 25 pages is 1 day worth of stuff.
That's right.
It's no way. So they've been playing the whole time like I'm stupid, and I'm not stupid.
No, you're not. Find out where your baby at.
What would bring me closure is to see my daughter, honestly. I have thought about this thing so many different ways. I have thought about the fact that she's alive and with somebody else, and she's bonding with somebody else, and what's that going to do to them, and then what it's going to do to her, and how the transition would go about. I have thought about it so many ways. I thought about, well, maybe she did live longer than what they said, and on February 25th, maybe if she passed, but they just didn't want to tell me it was later. Whatever the reason is, I just want to know. I'm in a store and not knowing if that's my daughter I'm looking at or not.
Wow.
That's not fair to me.
It's deep.
That is not fair.
And can I ask what happened to this one?
So this baby sat out for months at the funeral home. But because I had signed for the funeral home already,
You were stuck with it.
I was, in so many words, stuck with it. So they told me I had to bury the baby. I had already paid for the burial and everything because I told you I was in the process of the funeral arrangements. Everything was paid for. So I buried the baby in the spot where Legacy was supposed to be. And so the baby is buried. I felt bad because I knew that wasn't my child, and I didn't feel right burying somebody else's baby. So I left it out. We didn't bury this baby until May 5th. So that was months later. And that was only because they said I had to do something. If it was up to me, I would have tried to find their parents and let them have the closure and burying their own kid.
And Gina, trust me, I cringed at the fact I said, I don't know if we need to display this picture. But then I thought about Mamie Till. I thought about a little boy in Mississippi, and I just left Mississippi last month. And he was beaten, as you all know. Y'all know the Emmett Till story. Whistled at a lady, white lady. Beat, tortured, shot in the head. They put a generator wheel to his leg, and I visited the Emmett Till statue in Mississippi. And they threw him in the river thinking he was going to disappear. And some people were fishing, and it was a drought that year in Mississippi. And the water got low, and they seen the body and pointed at it, called the police, and they pulled the body out of the Tallahatchie River. And Miss Mamie Till was challenged at exposing her son's face, but she left the coffin open. Jet magazine ran a front page. The Charlotte Observer, if you was around that time, they would have put it on the front page. But it ran around the whole world, and it triggered the movement of the civil rights movement. But she wanted to see what they did to her baby boy. And so today, yes, you cringe at this picture. You're looking at death. You're also looking at a mother who's mourning, confused, processed a lawsuit for mental stress, and she was about to give up last week. Her deadline was this Sunday. I scrambled. And she said, I said, who gave you my number? She said, my bishop gave me your number, so shout out to Bishop Kevin Long. Shout out to Bishop Kevin Long, I gotta say that. So we're now today, we just want to entertain. Please, WCNC, Queen City News, I ain't gonna say no names, WCCB, WCNC, everybody, do me a favor. Call the HR department. Ask them where does the doctor at that told her that not only she's uneducated, but if you come up here, you're gonna get arrested. Well, we're here now, and we're not arrested. My second demonstration, we might get arrested, because I don't care. I have nothing to lose. I love my job. But I will tell you this.
All right, folks, that is the end of that recording. Going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll come back. We're going to close out 9 o'clock hour here. Talk to you soon. All right, just about 3 to 4 minutes away from when we have to close out the show. But until then, we're going to listen to President Trump in his cabinet meeting right now.
Gonna be nice. Gonna be nice today. Well, thank you very much. I think you probably noticed the Capitol room is getting more and more beautiful. You can see the flags behind us of the different forces and the American flag and various others. It's, I think, quite spectacular. It's never looked this good. And hopefully we're going to do work that's never been as good. So I think that's basically what's happened in our first year. We've had an amazing year, and this will be our first cabinet after the year, so we're starting our second year. Tremendous progress has been made. I want to thank my entire cabinet for 12 months of unprecedented achievements. We really have. I mean, it's unprecedented. The numbers we've had on the economy and growth, you see them, and that's despite a Democrat shutdown. Without the shutdown, we would have picked up about 1.5 points more than already high numbers, record-setting numbers. So this has been, I think, and a lot of people say it, the most successful year of any administration in American history. First year, there's never been a first year like this, including the fact that we extinguished 8 wars, and another one we think is coming. Steve Witkoff's working very hard, and Jared and everybody else, and I think it's coming. It was just announced that the murder rate in our country is the biggest drop ever recorded. It's at the lowest level in 125 years. First in recorded history, it's the lowest in at least 125 years. It's a wonderful thing. And the crime is way down, and one of the reasons was we've taken a lot of bad people and gotten them out of our country. In some cases, they're so bad that we put them in prison because we don't want them to even take a chance of coming back in, even though our border is very secure, record-setting secure. We had 0 illegal aliens being admitted into our country for the last 8 months. That's hard for even me to believe, but the people that make up the lists are supposedly nonpartisan, but I would say they lean toward the Democrat side. And if they say that, I'm all for it. As you know, we've had a situation take place with respect to Venezuela. I want to just thank General Kane and his staff for the job that they've done is incredible. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And once it did take place, I want to thank the leadership of Venezuela. We're getting along really well with them. The relationships have been very strong, very good. And they have informed me that they feel this very good security, very strong security. We're working with the various people involved, including Chris and Doug and everybody on the oil. We have the major oil companies going to Venezuela now, scouting it out and picking their locations, and they'll be bringing back tremendous wealth for Venezuela and for the United States, and the oil companies will do fine too. Venezuela will actually make for themselves more money than they've ever made before, and that's a good thing. And the people of Venezuela were literally in the streets waving American flags. They were so happy. And the people in our country, like in the Doral section of Miami, which is considered Little Venezuela, they're thrilled. And I just spoke to the president of Venezuela, informed her that we're going to be opening up all commercial airspace over Venezuela. American citizens will be very shortly able to go to Venezuela, and they'll be safe there. They'll be safe. It's under very strong control. And the people of formerly of Venezuela, some want to go back and some want to go back to visit, and they're going to be able to do that. So I've instructed.
All right, folks, going to cut off the president, unfortunately, but if you want to watch the whole thing, we did have it earlier on WCNC Plus. Just to remind you, we have the entire interview at 9 o'clock between Vanessa and Ian Epstein's family, the man that was killed in that D.C. midair collision just last year, among others, that American Airlines-based Charlotte crew. So again, that'll be at 9 p.m. right after us here in the next couple of minutes. We'll see you then. Thank you so much for your time here on WCNC Plus. We'll see you at 11.